The sun was shining, and the sky was a perfect shade of blue as I arrived at the park for the annual company picnic. It was the kind of day that made you feel alive and full of possibilities. I had spent the whole week planning and preparing a special summer menu, excited to showcase my culinary skills to my colleagues. Charlotte and James had come early to help me set up, their laughter making everything feel light and carefree. "Olivia, these shrimp look amazing," Charlotte said, peeking into one of the containers. "Everyone's going to love this." "I hope so," I replied, arranging the skewers on the grill. I wanted to do something special this year. James joined us, carrying a cooler filled with drinks. "You're going to knock their socks off, Liv. This is going to be the best picnic yet." As the afternoon wore on, the park filled with the sounds of colleagues chatting, children playing, and the sizzle of food on the grill. The air was thick with the mouth-watering aroma of grilled shrimp, marinated vegetables, and fresh herbs. People started lining up to grab plates, and I couldn't help but smile as I watched them enjoy the food. "Olivia, this corn salad is to die for," one of my colleagues exclaimed, coming back for seconds. "You really outdid yourself." I blushed, feeling a warm glow of pride. "Thanks, I'm glad you like it." Everything seemed perfect until, a few hours later, things took a terrible turn. It started with a few people complaining about stomach cramps. At first I thought it was just the heat, or maybe too much excitement. But then, more and more people began to feel sick. "Olivia, I don't feel so good," Charlotte said, clutching her stomach. "Something's not right." Panic started to set in as I saw people doubling over in pain. Within minutes, the situation escalated. Colleagues were lying on the grass, groaning, and some even started vomiting. The sight of them made my heart race with fear and guilt. "Call 911, someone shouted. "We need ambulances now." I felt a knot of dread tighten in my stomach as the paramedics arrived. They quickly assessed the situation, loading people onto stretchers and rushing them to the hospital. I felt dizzy and weak, my own stomach churning. A paramedic approached me. "Ma'am, you need to come with us," he said gently. "You're showing symptoms too." I nodded numbly, unable to process what was happening. As I lay on the stretcher, I glanced around at my colleagues. The looks of pain and confusion on their faces tore at me. All I could think was, how did this happen? At the hospital, the reality of the situation hit me hard. I overheard doctors talking about food poisoning, and the guilt weighed down on me like a heavy blanket. I'd always been so careful, so meticulous about my cooking. How could I have let this happen? When William, our CEO, walked into my room, I hoped for some reassurance, some understanding, but his expression was cold and stern. "Olivia, this is a serious issue," he said bluntly. "Your actions have endangered the company." I didn't mean for this to happen," I stammered, tears welling up in my eyes. "I was careful. I don't know what went wrong." William's eyes narrowed. "Intentions don't matter now. We have people in the hospital and clients hearing about this. We're considering disciplinary action. You need to take responsibility." With that, he turned and left, leaving me alone with my guilt and fear. I felt like the world was crashing down around me. How could one mistake, one misstep, ruin everything I had worked so hard for? As I lay in the hospital bed that night, tears streaming down my face, I vowed to find out what had gone wrong. I owed it to myself, to my colleagues, and to the career I loved so much. I couldn't let this be the end of my story. The hospital released me 2 days later, and I returned home, feeling weak and defeated. I dreaded going back to work, but I knew I had to face the consequences. My first day back was worse than I had imagined. Whispers filled the office, and every glance felt like a dagger in my back. As I walked down the hall, I overheard a conversation between 2 colleagues. "Can you believe Olivia did this to us?" one of them said. "I know, right? You'd think she would be more careful," the other replied. Their words stung, and I felt my stomach churn with a mix of anger and shame. I had always taken pride in my work, and hearing people talk about me like that was unbearable. When I reached my desk, Charlotte was waiting for me. Olivia, are you okay? She asked, her eyes full of concern. I don't know, I admitted, sinking into my chair. I feel like everyone hates me. Charlotte shook her head. Not everyone. James and I are here for you. We'll get through this together. Her words were comforting, but I knew the road ahead was going to be rough. Later that day, William called me into his office. I took a deep breath and walked in, bracing myself for whatever was coming. Olivia, sit down, William said, his tone cold and formal. I sat, my hands trembling. William, I want you to know that I never meant for this to happen. I've been trying to figure out what went wrong. William leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable. Intentions aside, this incident has caused significant damage to our reputation. The board is considering your termination. My heart sank. Please give me a chance to make this right. I can help figure out what happened and ensure it never happens again. William sighed, rubbing his temples. I'll discuss it with the board, but don't get your hopes up. I left his office feeling more hopeless than ever. As the days passed, the atmosphere at work grew colder. People avoided me, and the whispers only grew louder. It felt like I was living in a nightmare. One evening, as I was packing up to leave, James walked over to my desk. Olivia, can we talk? I nodded, grateful for his support. We walked to a nearby coffee shop, and I poured out my heart to him, explaining how isolated and scared I felt. Olivia, you don't have to go through this alone, James said, his voice steady and reassuring. Charlotte and I believe in you. We're going to find out what really happened. His words were a lifeline, giving me a glimmer of hope. Thank you, James. I don't know what I'd do without you and Charlotte. Over the next few weeks, Charlotte and James worked tirelessly to uncover the truth. They talked to other clients, checked the catering suppliers, and examined every possible angle. Meanwhile, I documented my recipes and methods in meticulous detail, hoping to find a clue. One afternoon, Charlotte burst into my office, her face lit with excitement. Olivia, I think we've found something. One of the suppliers admitted to sending a batch of shrimp that had been improperly stored. That's probably what caused the food poisoning. My heart raced. Do you have proof? Yes, I got it in writing, she said, holding up an email. This clears you, Olivia. Relief washed over me, but I knew we still had to convince William. The next morning, we gathered in William's office, presenting our findings. William, the food poisoning wasn't Olivia's fault, James said firmly, handing over the email. It was due to contaminated shrimp from a supplier. William read the email, his face hardening. Even so, Olivia served the food. She should have checked the quality. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. William, I did check. This was beyond my control. Please give me a chance to prove myself. William's eyes narrowed. We'll see. But this doesn't change the fact that our reputation has been damaged. As we left his office, I felt a mix of frustration and hope. We had found the truth, but William's refusal to see reason was infuriating. Charlotte and James stood by me, their support unwavering. That evening, James came over to my apartment. Olivia, I've decided to give William an ultimatum. If he doesn't reinstate you, I'm taking my business elsewhere. I looked at him, my eyes wide with surprise. James, are you sure? That's a huge risk. I'm sure, he said, his voice firm. William needs to understand that talent and integrity matter more than appearances. Tears welled up in my eyes as I hugged him. Thank you, James. Your support means everything to me. As I lay in bed that night, I felt a renewed sense of determination. With friends like Charlotte and James by my side, I knew I could face whatever came next. Together, we would overcome this adversity and prove that true talent and friendship could triumph even in the darkest times. Despite everything that had happened, walking into the office the next day felt a bit more bearable. Charlotte and James's support gave me the strength to keep going. As I entered the building, I could feel the weight of the stares and whispers, but I squared my shoulders and held my head high. I had to focus on what mattered, proving my innocence and regaining my reputation. "Hey," Liv Charlotte called as I reached my desk. "Got a minute? Let's grab a coffee." We headed to the break room, where the smell of freshly brewed coffee filled the air. Charlotte handed me a cup, her eyes full of determination. "I've been thinking," she began. "We need to build a case so strong that William can't ignore it. We have the email from the supplier, but we need more." I nodded, sipping my coffee. "What do you have in mind?" "Well," she said, leaning in conspiratorially, "I've been digging through past invoices and found out this supplier has a history of sending out bad batches. We need to gather testimonies from other clients who've had similar issues." "That's a great idea," I said, feeling a spark of hope. "But how do we get them to talk?" "Leave that to me," James said, joining us with a confident smile. "I've got some connections. I'll reach out to a few people and see if they're willing to help." Over the next few days, James and Charlotte worked tirelessly. James called up his contacts, explaining the situation and asking for their support. Charlotte combed through records and documented every detail meticulously. Meanwhile, I continued to show up at work, doing my job as best as I could while feeling the ever-present scrutiny. One afternoon, James walked into my office, a triumphant look on his face. "We've got 3 clients willing to testify about the bad shipments they received from the same supplier," he said, handing me a folder. "This should help our case." I flipped through the pages, feeling a surge of gratitude. "James, this is incredible. Thank you so much." "We're not done yet," he said with a grin. "Charlotte and I have set up a meeting with William tomorrow. We're going to present everything we found." The next day, the 3 of us stood outside William's office, ready to face him. My heart pounded in my chest, but the presence of my friends gave me courage. We walked in together, and William looked up from his desk, his expression skeptical. "William, we need to talk," James began, placing the folder on his desk. "We have evidence that proves Olivia isn't responsible for the food poisoning incident." William raised an eyebrow. "I'm listening." Charlotte stepped forward, her voice steady and confident. "We have testimonies from 3 clients who received bad shipments from the same supplier. They've all experienced similar issues. It's clear that the supplier is at fault, not Olivia." William flipped through the documents, his face growing increasingly tense. "Even if this is true, the fact remains that Olivia served the food." "She couldn't have known," James interjected. "No one could have. But punishing her for something beyond her control isn't just unfair, it's unjust." I watched as William's face hardened, the internal struggle evident. Finally, he looked up, his eyes cold. "I'll consider this information, but it doesn't change the fact that our reputation has suffered." As we left his office, I felt a mix of hope and frustration. We had given him everything, but his stubbornness was unyielding. That evening, we gathered at Charlotte's apartment, brainstorming our next steps over takeout. "We can't give up now," Charlotte said, her voice resolute. "We've come too far." "I agree," James said. "We need to keep pushing, find more evidence, and maybe even take this to the board." I nodded, feeling a renewed sense of determination. "You're right. We can't let William's stubbornness ruin everything. We need to show everyone the truth." In the following days, we continued our efforts, reaching out to more clients and compiling as much evidence as we could. The support from Charlotte and James never wavered, their belief in my innocence keeping me strong. One morning, as I was going through some old emails, Charlotte burst into my office, excitement lighting up her face. "Olivia, you need to see this," she said, holding up her phone. "One of the clients just sent us a video of their spoiled shipment. It's undeniable proof." We watched the video together, relief washing over me. "This is it," I said, feeling tears of gratitude welling up. "This will clear my name." We arranged another meeting with William, this time including several board members. As we presented the new evidence, I saw the doubt in their eyes slowly turning to realization. "William, it's clear that Olivia isn't to blame," one of the board members said, turning to him. "We need to rectify this." William's face was a mask of frustration and resignation. Very well, he said finally. Olivia, you're reinstated. But understand that we will be watching closely. As we left the meeting, a sense of triumph and relief filled me. I couldn't have done it without Charlotte and James. Their unwavering support had carried me through the darkest times. That evening we celebrated with dinner at our favourite restaurant. As we clinked our glasses together, I looked at my friends, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. Thank you, I said, my voice choked with emotion. I couldn't have done this without you. To friendship, James said, raising his glass, and to never giving up. To new beginnings, Charlotte added with a smile. As we toasted to our hard-earned victory, I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, I could face them with my friends by my side. The days following our meeting with William were a whirlwind of emotions. While I was grateful to be reinstated, I knew my position was still precarious. William's reluctance to fully accept my innocence left a bitter taste in my mouth. But I wasn't alone in this fight. Charlotte and James were more determined than ever to see justice served. One afternoon, James called me into his office. Olivia, sit down. We need to talk. I took a seat, noticing the serious look on his face. What's up, James? He leaned forward, his voice low. I've been thinking about this whole situation. William's stubbornness is hurting not just you, but the whole company. It's time to take a stand. I nodded, feeling a mix of anxiety and hope. What do you have in mind? James glanced at the door, making sure it was closed. I'm going to give William an ultimatum. Either he fully reinstates you and publicly clears your name, or I'm taking my business elsewhere. My eyes widened. James, that's a huge risk. Your account is one of the biggest at the agency. Are you sure you want to do this? He nodded, his expression resolute. Absolutely. It's not just about business. It's about doing what's right. William needs to understand that he can't treat people this way. I felt a surge of gratitude and concern. Thank you, James. I just hope this works. The next morning, James scheduled a meeting with William. As we walked into the conference room, I could feel the tension in the air. William sat at the head of the table, his expression unreadable. James, Olivia, have a seat, he said, gesturing to the chairs opposite him. James wasted no time. William, I've thought long and hard about this. The way you've handled this situation is unacceptable. Olivia has been proven innocent, yet you continue to treat her unfairly. William's jaw tightened. James, we've addressed this. She's been reinstated. That's not enough, James shot back. Her reputation is still tarnished, and your lack of support has caused unnecessary harm. I'm giving you an ultimatum: either you publicly clear Olivia's name and fully support her, or I'm taking my business elsewhere. William's eyes narrowed. You're willing to jeopardize our business relationship over this? James leaned forward, his voice firm. Absolutely. Olivia is a valuable part of this team, and your refusal to acknowledge that is costing you more than just her loyalty. I held my breath, watching the exchange. William's face was a mask of anger and frustration. He looked between James and me, the silence stretching uncomfortably. Finally, he spoke. You're serious about this? James nodded. Dead serious. I've already spoken to a few other clients who feel the same way. They're prepared to leave if things don't change. William's face turned a shade of red. Fine. You win. I'll make a public statement clearing Olivia's name. But understand this, James. This is a dangerous precedent you're setting. James stood up, extending a hand to William. Thank you, William. I'm glad we could come to an agreement. William shook his hand, though his grip was tight and his expression sour. As we left the conference room, I felt a mix of relief and anxiety. The battle was far from over, but this was a significant victory. Later that day, William called a company-wide meeting. We gathered in the main conference room, the air thick with anticipation. William stood at the front, his expression stoic. I've called this meeting to address the recent events that have affected our team, he began. After a thorough investigation, it's clear that Olivia was not at fault for the food poisoning incident. The blame lies with an external supplier. Olivia has always been a dedicated and valuable member of our team, and I want to publicly apologize for any harm caused by our initial response. There was a murmur of surprise and relief among the employees. I felt a weight lift off my shoulders as William continued. Moving forward, we will be implementing stricter quality control measures to ensure this never happens again. I hope we can all support Olivia as she continues to contribute to our success. As the meeting ended, Charlotte and James were the first to approach me, their faces beaming with pride. "Olivia, you did it," Charlotte exclaimed, pulling me into a hug. "We did it," I corrected, hugging her back. "I couldn't have done this without you and James." James grinned. "This is just the beginning. Now we can focus on moving forward and making this place better for everyone." That evening we celebrated at our favorite bar. The atmosphere was light and joyful, a stark contrast to the tension of the past weeks. As we raised our glasses, I felt a deep sense of gratitude for my friends and the support they had given me. "To new beginnings," Charlotte said, clinking her glass against mine. "To standing up for what's right," James added with a smile. "And to true friends," I said, feeling the warmth of their support. "Thank you, both of you. I couldn't have made it through this without you." As we toasted and laughed, I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, I had the strength and support to face them. The ultimatum had been a turning point, and it was clear that we were on the path to something better. In the weeks following William's public apology, the atmosphere at the agency shifted. While some colleagues were supportive, others remained skeptical. But the real trouble was just beginning. William's grudging acceptance of the ultimatum left a bitter taste in his mouth, and it became clear that the foundation of the company was starting to crumble. One morning, I arrived at the office to find a buzz of frantic activity. People were huddled in groups, whispering and glancing nervously around. Charlotte met me at the entrance, her face pale with worry. "Olivia, you need to see this," she said, handing me her phone. I glanced at the screen and saw an email from a major client. It read, "Due to recent events and a lack of confidence in your leadership, we are terminating our contract effective immediately." My heart sank. "How many clients have we lost?" Charlotte sighed. "This is the third one this week. And there are rumors that more are considering leaving." We headed to James's office, finding him deep in conversation with another client over the phone. He looked up, his expression grim. "That was another one. They're pulling out." "James, what's going on?" I asked, feeling a knot of dread tighten in my stomach. "It's William," James said, running a hand through his hair. "His refusal to take responsibility and his treatment of employees have shaken everyone's confidence. Clients don't trust us anymore." As the days passed, the situation only worsened. More clients pulled out, and the agency's financial stability started to falter. The once bustling office now felt like a ghost town, with empty desks and a palpable sense of unease. One afternoon, William called an emergency meeting. The remaining employees gathered in the conference room, tension hanging heavy in the air. William stood at the front, looking more haggard than I had ever seen him. "We're facing a crisis," he began, his voice strained. "We've lost several key clients, and our financial situation is dire. We need to make some tough decisions to stay afloat." Murmurs of concern rippled through the room. One of the senior managers, Karen, stood up. "William, this is a direct result of your actions. You've driven away our clients and demoralized our staff. We need real leadership to turn this around." William's face reddened. "I've done what I thought was best for this company." "But your best isn't good enough," James interjected, his voice calm but firm. "You've ignored the voices of your employees and clients. This collapse is on you." The room fell silent as everyone absorbed James's words. It was clear that William's leadership was the root of the problem, but admitting it was another matter entirely. After the meeting, I sat at my desk, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. The agency I had once loved was falling apart, and it felt like there was nothing I could do to stop it. Charlotte and James joined me, their faces mirroring my own emotions. "We can't keep working like this," Charlotte said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The environment is toxic, and it's only getting worse." "I agree," James said. "We need to start thinking about our future. Maybe it's time to move on." The thought of leaving was daunting, but I knew they were right. Staying at the agency meant being dragged down with it. That evening we gathered at Charlotte's apartment to discuss our next steps. "We need a plan," Charlotte said, spreading out a notepad on the coffee table. "We have the skills and the connections. Why not start our own agency?" I looked at her, surprised. "You really think we can do it?" James nodded. "Absolutely. We know the industry inside and out, and we have a strong network. We can create something better, a place where people are valued and respected." The more we talked, the more the idea took shape. We discussed our vision, our values, and how we would operate differently. By the end of the night, we had a rough plan and a renewed sense of hope. The next morning, we handed in our resignations. William didn't seem surprised, but his expression was one of defeat. "I suppose this was inevitable," he said quietly. As we packed up our things, I felt a strange mix of sadness and excitement. Leaving the agency was bittersweet, but the prospect of a fresh start filled me with determination. A few weeks later, our new agency was officially launched. We rented a small office space and began reaching out to former clients, explaining our vision and values. To our delight, many of them were eager to work with us again, impressed by our integrity and commitment. Our team grew quickly, and the atmosphere in the office was one of collaboration and respect. Every day I felt grateful for the chance to build something new with people who believed in me. One afternoon, as I was reviewing a new project proposal, James walked in with a big smile on his face. "We just landed another major client," he announced. "They heard about our reputation and want to work with us." I beamed. "That's fantastic news." As we celebrated, I reflected on how far we had come. The collapse of William's agency had been devastating, but it had also opened the door to something better. Together, we had created a place where true talent and genuine connections thrived, proving that resilience and integrity could overcome even the greatest challenges. Starting our new agency felt like a breath of fresh air. The small office we rented wasn't much, but it was ours. Every corner of the space buzzed with energy and potential. The walls were still bare and our furniture mismatched, but none of that mattered. What mattered was that we were building something meaningful from the ground up. "Morning, everyone," Charlotte greeted us cheerfully as we gathered for our first official team meeting. "Morning," we chorused back, the excitement palpable. James pulled out a whiteboard and started jotting down our goals for the week. "All right, team, let's talk strategy. We've got a lot of ground to cover, but I know we can do this." Our first major project was a marketing campaign for a local organic food brand. It was an opportunity to showcase our creativity and commitment to quality. We brainstormed ideas, bouncing concepts off each other, the room filled with laughter and enthusiasm. "How about we focus on the farm-to-table journey?" I suggested. "We can highlight the stories of the farmers and how their dedication leads to high-quality products." "Love it," Charlotte said, her eyes lighting up. "And we can use social media to share behind-the-scenes footage, making it interactive." James nodded. "We can also set up tasting events at local markets. Let people experience the products firsthand." The ideas flowed freely, and by the end of the day we had a solid plan in place. The collaborative spirit was invigorating, and I felt more alive than I had in months. As the weeks went by, our client list grew steadily. Word spread about our innovative approach and the supportive environment we fostered. We were attracting talented individuals who wanted to be part of something different, something genuine. One afternoon, as I was reviewing designs for a new website, Charlotte popped her head into my office. "Olivia, you've got a visitor." I looked up, surprised. "Who is it?" "It's Rachel, one of our old colleagues from William's agency," she said, stepping aside to let Rachel in. "Rachel. It's so good to see you," I exclaimed, standing up to hug her. Likewise, Olivia, she said, smiling warmly. I've been following your progress. I'm really impressed with what you've built here. Thanks, I said, feeling a swell of pride. It hasn't been easy, but it's been worth it. Rachel looked around the office, taking in the bustling atmosphere. I was wondering if there's any chance you're hiring. I've had enough of William's toxic environment, and I'd love to be part of your team. I exchanged a glance with Charlotte, who nodded enthusiastically. Absolutely, Rachel. We'd be thrilled to have you. Let's sit down and talk about how you can contribute. Rachel joined our team the next day, bringing with her a wealth of experience and a positive attitude. She fit right in, and her presence only strengthened our growing family. One evening, after a particularly productive day, James suggested we all go out for dinner to celebrate. We headed to a nearby restaurant, the atmosphere lively and relaxed. To new beginnings, James said, raising his glass. To new beginnings, we echoed, clinking our glasses together. As we enjoyed our meal, we shared stories, laughed, and reflected on how far we had come. The camaraderie was genuine, and I felt deeply grateful for the journey we were on. A few days later, we received a call from a potential client, a well-known tech company looking to revamp their brand. This was a huge opportunity, one that could catapult our agency to new heights. We spent the next week preparing our pitch, pouring our hearts and souls into every detail. The day of the presentation, we walked into the conference room with a mix of nerves and excitement. Thank you for considering us, I began, addressing the room. We believe in the power of authentic storytelling and innovative solutions. Here's what we envision for your brand. We walked them through our ideas, showcasing our creativity and strategic thinking. When we finished, the room was silent for a moment, and then the CEO stood up, smiling. That was impressive, he said. We've met with several agencies, but your passion and vision set you apart. We'd like to work with you. I felt a rush of triumph as we shook hands. This was the validation we had been working towards, proof that our new beginning was not just a dream but a reality. Back at the office, we celebrated our victory. I looked around at my team, feeling an overwhelming sense of pride and gratitude. We did it, I said, my voice filled with emotion. This is just the beginning, but it's clear we're on the right path. Charlotte raised her glass to our amazing team and the incredible journey ahead. As we toasted to our success, I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we had the strength, resilience, and support to overcome them. Our new beginning was not just about building a successful agency, it was about creating a place where people thrived, where true talent was recognized, and where the power of genuine connections made all the difference. With the tech company now among our clients, our agency's reputation skyrocketed. We were no longer just the new kids on the block, we were becoming a force to be reckoned with. Our small office started to feel cramped as we took on more projects and hired new talent. It was time to move to a bigger space. Guys, I think it's time we find a new office, Charlotte said one morning during our weekly meeting. We need more room to grow. I agree, James added. Plus, we need space for all the new ideas we've got cooking. I nodded. Let's start looking. We need a place that reflects who we are and where we're going. We spent the next few weeks touring potential offices, finally finding the perfect space, a bright, open loft with plenty of room for creativity and collaboration. Moving day was a blur of excitement and activity. As we set up our new office, I felt a deep sense of accomplishment. This was more than just a new location, it was a symbol of our growth and potential. One of our first projects in the new office was a campaign for a non-profit organization focused on environmental conservation. They wanted to raise awareness about the impact of plastic waste on marine life. It was a cause we all believed in, and we were determined to create something impactful. We need to make this personal, Charlotte said during our brainstorming session. We need to show people how their actions directly affect the environment. How about a series of short videos featuring real stories, James suggested. We can interview people who've seen the effects firsthand: fishermen, beach cleanup volunteers, even marine biologists. That's a great idea, I agreed. We can also create interactive social media content. maybe a challenge encouraging people to reduce their plastic use. The project took off, and soon our office was buzzing with activity. We reached out to our contacts, set up interviews, and started filming. The stories we captured were powerful and moving, and our team poured their hearts into the work. One evening, as we were wrapping up a long day of editing, Rachel walked over with a big smile. "Guys, you have to see this," she said, holding up her phone. We gathered around as she played a video. It was one of our interviewees, a young girl who had started a beach cleanup initiative in her community. Her enthusiasm and dedication were infectious, and by the end of the video, we were all teary-eyed. "That's exactly what we needed," Charlotte said, her voice filled with emotion. "This is going to make a real difference." The campaign launched to overwhelming success. Our videos went viral, and the non-profit saw a surge in donations and volunteer sign-ups. It was a proud moment for all of us, proof that our work could have a real, positive impact on the world. As our agency continued to grow, we made sure to stay true to our values. We implemented mentorship programs, encouraging experienced team members to guide and support new hires. We held weekly team lunches where everyone could share ideas and feedback. And we made it a point to give back to the community, taking on pro bono projects for causes we believed in. One afternoon, as we were preparing for a client meeting, James pulled me aside. "Olivia, I've been thinking," he said. "We've built something incredible here, but I don't want us to ever lose sight of why we started this in the first place." "I feel the same way," I said. "We need to keep pushing ourselves, stay innovative, and never compromise on our values." He nodded. "Exactly. We should think about creating a legacy, something that lasts beyond us." His words stuck with me. That evening, as I sat in my office, I thought about what kind of legacy we wanted to leave. It wasn't just about being successful, it was about making a difference, about creating a culture where people felt valued and inspired. The next morning, I gathered the team. "I've been thinking about what James said I began. We've done amazing things, but I want us to aim higher. Let's create a legacy we can be proud of. Let's be the agency that sets the standard for how businesses should treat their employees and the world around them." Charlotte smiled. "I'm in. Let's do it." "Me too," James added. "This is what we've been working towards." We spent the next few months laying the groundwork for our legacy. We partnered with educational institutions to create internship programs, giving young people opportunities to learn and grow. We established sustainability initiatives, ensuring our operations were eco-friendly. And we continued to take on projects that aligned with our values, knowing that our work could inspire change. One day I received an email from a former colleague at Williams' agency. She had heard about our success and wanted to reconnect. As we chatted over coffee, she expressed her admiration for what we had built. "Olivia, you've created something really special here," she said. "It's inspiring to see a company that truly cares about its people and its impact on the world." Her words were a reminder of how far we had come, the challenges we had faced, the risks we had taken, and the values we had upheld. They had all led us to this moment. As I looked around our bustling office, filled with talented and passionate people, I felt a deep sense of fulfillment. We were building a legacy, not just for ourselves, but for everyone who believed in what we stood for. And that, more than anything, was the true measure of our success. Months passed, and our agency continued to thrive. We were known not just for our innovative campaigns, but for our values and the positive culture we had cultivated. Yet, despite our success, there was still a part of my past that lingered unresolved. My time at Williams' agency. The memory of how things ended there still haunted me, and I knew I needed closure. One afternoon, as I was organizing some files, my phone buzzed with an email notification. I glanced at the screen and saw an unexpected name, William. Hesitating for a moment, I opened the email. "Olivia, I hope this message finds you well. I'd like to meet and discuss some things that have been on my mind. Please let me know if you're available. Best, William." My heart raced as I read the message. Why did he want to meet? What could he possibly have to say after all this time? I took a deep breath and decided to reply. "Hi, William. I'm available this Friday afternoon. Let me know if that works for you. Best, Olivia. Friday came quickly, and I found myself sitting in a quiet cafe, waiting for William. I sipped my coffee, trying to calm my nerves. When he finally walked in, I was struck by how much he had changed. He looked older, more tired, and the confident swagger he once had seemed diminished. Olivia, he greeted me, his voice softer than I remembered. Thank you for meeting with me. Hi, William, I replied, trying to keep my tone neutral. What did you want to talk about? He sighed, sitting down across from me. I've been doing a lot of thinking since everything happened. I wanted to apologize for the way I handled things. I was wrong, and I didn't treat you fairly. I looked at him, surprised. That means a lot to hear, William. But it wasn't just about me. You created a toxic environment, and a lot of good people suffered because of it. I know, he admitted, his eyes downcast. I've lost a lot because of my actions. Clients, employees, even friends. It's been a tough lesson to learn, but I'm trying to change. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the past hanging between us. Finally, I spoke. I appreciate your apology, William. It took a lot to face me and admit you were wrong. But you need to understand that it wasn't just about admitting fault, it's about making real changes. He nodded. I'm working on that. I've started a new venture, and I'm trying to do things differently this time. I want to create a better environment, like the one you've built. His words surprised me. You've seen what we've done. Yes, he said, a hint of a smile on his lips. Your agency has a great reputation. People talk about the culture you've created, the respect and value you show to your employees. It's inspiring. I felt a swell of pride. Thank you, William. It hasn't been easy, but it's been worth it. I hope you're sincere about changing. I am, he assured me. I've even started seeking advice from former colleagues, trying to learn from my mistakes. As our conversation continued, I felt a sense of closure I hadn't realized I needed. William's acknowledgement of his wrongdoings and his desire to change were important steps forward. When we finally parted ways, I felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. Back at the office, I shared the news with Charlotte and James. You won't believe who I had coffee with today, I said, leaning against the doorframe of Charlotte's office. Who? Charlotte asked, looking up from her computer. William. James raised an eyebrow. Really? How did that go? It was actually. Good, I replied, sitting down. He apologized and admitted he was wrong. He's trying to change, to create a better environment in his new venture. Charlotte smiled. That's huge, Olivia. It must feel good to hear that. It does, I admitted. I think it's a step towards closure. It's important to move on, but also to acknowledge where we've come from. James nodded. Facing the past is never easy, but it's necessary. It's part of what makes us stronger. That evening, I reflected on the journey we had been on. From the collapse of William's agency to the creation of our own, we had faced numerous challenges and come out stronger. But more importantly, we had built something that stood for integrity, respect, and genuine connection. A few days later, we received an invitation to speak at an industry conference. The theme was building a better future in business, and they wanted us to share our story. It felt like the perfect opportunity to showcase what we had accomplished and to inspire others. On the day of the conference, we stood on stage, looking out at the audience. I took a deep breath and began. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Olivia, and this is Charlotte and James. We're here to share our journey of building a company that values people above all else. It hasn't been an easy road, but it's been incredibly rewarding. As we shared our story, I saw nods of agreement and expressions of inspiration. When we finished, the applause was overwhelming. It was a moment of validation, not just for our hard work, but for the values we stood for. After the conference, people approached us, thanking us for our honesty and sharing how our story had inspired them. It was a reminder of why we had started this journey in the first place. As we headed back to the office, I felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Facing the past had been difficult, but it had also been necessary. It allowed us to move forward with clarity and purpose. That night, as I sat at my desk, I wrote down a few words to remind myself of what we had achieved: resilience, integrity, and growth. These words had defined our journey and would continue to guide us as we built our legacy. Our story was far from over, but I knew that with Charlotte and James by my side, we could face whatever came next. We had overcome adversity, embraced forgiveness, and created something beautiful out of the ashes of our past. And that, more than anything, was our true success. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over our office. The past year had been a whirlwind of growth, challenges, and triumphs. As I looked around at our thriving agency, I felt a deep sense of peace. We had come a long way, and the journey had taught me more than I could have imagined. One evening, we decided to host a small gathering at the office to celebrate our achievements and reflect on our journey. The atmosphere was warm and filled with laughter as our team mingled, sharing stories and enjoying each other's company. "Can you believe how far we've come?" Charlotte said, standing next to me with a glass of wine in hand. "It feels like just yesterday we were in that cramped little office." "I know," I replied, smiling. "We've accomplished so much, and it's all because of the amazing team we've built." James joined us, his face beaming with pride. "This place wouldn't be what it is without you, Olivia. Your leadership and vision have made all the difference." "Thanks, James," I said, feeling a rush of gratitude. "But it's really been a team effort. We all believed in this dream and worked hard to make it a reality." As the evening went on, I found myself thinking about the journey we had been on, the ups and downs, the moments of doubt, and the ultimate triumphs. Facing the past and embracing forgiveness had been a crucial part of that journey. After most of the team had left, Charlotte, James, and I sat in the quiet office, reminiscing about our experiences. "Remember that first big client we landed?" Charlotte said, laughing. "We were so nervous during the pitch." "And the late nights we spent brainstorming in the old office," James added. "Those were some tough times, but they brought us closer together." "Yeah," I said, nodding. "It wasn't just about building a successful business. It was about creating something meaningful, something we could all be proud of." James leaned back in his chair, a thoughtful look on his face. "You know, Olivia, one of the biggest lessons I've learned from all this is the power of forgiveness. Letting go of the past and moving forward with a clear heart has made all the difference." "I couldn't agree more," I said. "Forgiving William, forgiving myself, and embracing the future with an open mind and heart, it's been transformative." Charlotte smiled. "And it's not just about forgiveness. It's about resilience too. We faced so many challenges, but we never gave up. We believed in each other and in our vision." The next day, I decided to take a walk through the city, reflecting on the path that had led us here. As I walked, I thought about the people who had supported us, the obstacles we had overcome, and the lessons we had learned along the way. At a small park, I found a bench and sat down, watching children play and people enjoying the sunny day. My mind wandered back to a conversation I had once had with my grandmother. She had always been a source of wisdom and strength for me. "Oh, Olivia," she had said, "life will throw many challenges your way. But remember, it's not the challenges that define you, it's how you respond to them. Forgiveness, resilience, and love, those are the keys to a fulfilling life." Her words echoed in my mind, and I realized just how true they were. Forgiveness had been a cornerstone of our journey, allowing us to heal and move forward. Resilience had kept us strong in the face of adversity, and love for what we do and for each other had been the driving force behind our success. Back at the office, I gathered the team for a brief meeting. I just wanted to take a moment to thank you all, I began, looking around at the faces that had become so familiar. "This journey hasn't been easy, but your dedication and passion have made it all worthwhile." Charlotte nodded. "We've built something incredible together, and it's because we never lost sight of our values." James added, "And because we've always supported each other. That's what makes this place special." "Exactly," I said. "As we move forward, let's continue to embrace forgiveness, resilience, and love. Let's keep building a legacy we can be proud of." The team clapped and cheered, and I felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Our journey was far from over, but we had built a solid foundation based on the values that mattered most. That evening, As I left the office and walked home, I felt a sense of peace and gratitude. Embracing forgiveness had not only helped us heal, but had also opened the door to new possibilities. It had allowed us to create a thriving, supportive environment where everyone could flourish. Our story was a testament to the power of resilience, the importance of standing up for what's right, and the incredible impact of genuine connections. And as we continued to grow and evolve, I knew that those values would remain at the heart of everything we did. In the end, it wasn't just about building a successful agency. It was about creating a community where people felt valued and inspired, where forgiveness and resilience were celebrated, and where love and respect were the driving forces behind every decision. And that, more than anything, was the legacy we were leaving behind. Let us know in the comments how this story has inspired you, or share your own experiences of overcoming adversity. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more heart-touching stories like this one. Hit the bell icon to stay updated with our latest uploads. Your journey through the complexities of the human heart starts now. Remember, your story isn't over yet. It's just a new chapter beginning. Stay strong, stay inspired.